Welcome to our podcast. Today we will be talking about education and equality in the US. My name is Jorge Torres,
And my name is Giancarlo.
uh, and we'll be talking about our personal experiences in the US. Even later, we'll have a guest talking about his experiences with education outside of the US. Um, so I'll begin first with my experience at public schools. So a little background of where I went from preschool up until fifth grade. I went to Webster Elementary, which is a public school in Hazel Park. Um, it was really under resourced. I remember teachers always complaining about how they didn't have all the materials that they needed for their school and to be able to teach the students properly. It was also understaffed. I remember perfectly when I was in fourth grade, one of my, or rather my fourth grade classroom, it was split up evenly. Half of the class was third graders and half of the class was fourth graders, which is just something unexpected. It doesn't seem like the proper learning environment or something that you would expect out of what many Americans deem to be the best country in the world. Um, So yeah, that was an absolute mess. I remember the teacher having to give our math lesson cut in half so that she could go teach the other third graders, and then we spent the second half of our math period trying to desperately figure out what we were doing, considering that, like I said, our class was cut in half, and as a fourth grader, uh, there wasn't really many opportunities for us to figure things out for ourselves. So it was rather difficult. And then right after that year, ironically enough, that school was shut down uh, for record low grades of among students, lack of staff, lack of resources, lack of school support. Um, the district just decided that it was better to just shut it down and make it into a completely uh, what would it be called? Uh, Preschool and pre-kindergarten school. That's it. So that's what it still is now. But they decided that the elementary, the first through fifth grade, would be split up into the other two Hazel Park schools in the district, which were performing a little bit better, but even then, uh, not very well. So after that school was shut down, I transferred to St. Anne Catholic School in Warren. Uh, so yeah, that school was definitely a lot better. I started there in fifth grade. Uh, I remember going there and thinking, I'm gonna be really behind, considering the absolute mess that I had gone through the last 6 years of my education. So I remember being really worried about, having to study over the summer, learning, cleaning up on my math skills, or reading a book every now and then. Just afraid of what this private education was going to be compared to uh, the public education, and I was right. I didn't feel very behind. I can't say that I felt too far behind, but I could definitely notice that a lot of the students were ahead in different skills, not particularly one, just overall. Um, and I feel like the best thing about that school, or the thing that I immediately realized, was like the teachers actually cared about your education. As funny as that may be to say, they actually cared about you succeeding, actually cared about you learning. Uh, so it was kind of like a cultural shock, I guess you could say. It was unexpected coming from a public school where teachers had split up classrooms between two grades. They could barely get the resources for their class, and I mean, even St. Anne, they didn't have all the resources in the world that they could ask for, or sometimes even that they were understaffed. But it was definitely clear that it was a much better learning environment Um, and it's kind of shocking because so my parents they thought that you know it's America. These schools must be really well off. They're gonna give my son the best education that they can give. But they quickly realized that my experience at a public school wasn't good. So that's why they decided that a private school would probably be a better experience, and it was. I feel like it really set me up for success. It really gave me a good basis for my uh, high school education. I felt really prepared. Um, so now reflecting on those two schools, I feel like we have to look at some of the differences. Um, so one very obvious difference is how many more African American students there are in the Hazel Park School District. Um, even just minorities in general, but specifically in Hazel Park compared to Warren, it'd be particularly how many more African American students are. Um, so we know that school districts that serve students of color receive $23 billion less than mostly white school districts, which is just an astronomical number. I mean, 23 billion. Um, Thinking back to how under resourced my school in Hazel Park was, I mean, just imagine how like where that money could go, the difference that could make, and just seeing that particularly school districts with more students of color receive that much less money. It's just it's mind boggling, honestly. And it really makes me wonder, like just what would have happened if I continued going to Hazel Park Public School? Like, would I have been like in the same position that I am right now? Would I have been prepared for high school? Would I even have been looking at U of D? Would that have been an option? Uh, Probably not, honestly, because not even the learning environment. I mean, just the opportunities that Hazel Park, the school district, would have given me. I feel like they just can't be compared to the opportunities that I was given at a private school. And I mean, obviously, it's expected for the private school to be a lot better, but you would think that a public school system would, you know, would be a lot better. It's just, it's a little, it's confusing, I guess you could say. Um, and yeah, and like I said, my Saint Anne education wasn't perfect. I mean, it was private school, but it's one of the cheapest private schools in terms of the Catholic the Archdiocese of Detroit. So with that, I'll pass it over to John, who had a very different experience with education. He attended Academy of Sacred Heart for his life, and which is a much better well off than both Hazel Park and St. Anne. So yeah, I'll pass it over to John.
Okay. So yeah, I went to Academy of the Sacred Heart, which is located in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. So I mean, I went there for my entire life before UD. So I went there from preschool all the way up into 8th grade. And well, just one thing about Sacred Heart is that it's co-ed all the way up until 4th grade, and the middle schools get split up into a middle school for boys and a middle school for girls. And I was actually a part of one of the biggest like classes they ever had, which is only 16 kids. So the like one thing I have to say is that they had a really good like student to teacher ratio, and the classes were very small. We had, I remember, you just make a really good connection with the teacher. And I remember when we were graduating on 8th grade year, like on the last week, we like came into school and like a bunch of the teachers were crying so much, like just crying the entire day because of how much they were gonna miss us and how they would always want us to come back and visit when we leave for high school. And then also they when I was in elementary school, I was like I had a reading issue, so I had a really hard time whenever I read to remember and comprehend what I was reading. So what the school actually did was they got me a tutor, and instead of going to your language class that you would take, which at the time I was taking French, they would instead of me going to that class, I would go sit with a tutor and it would help me like just learn how to remember what I was reading and comprehend. That actually really helped me a lot, and I wonder like if I wasn't able to get that help, like where would I be today? Because even now, I would still say I have some trouble reading, but not nearly as bad as was. And without the help, I don't know where I would have been. And then the main purpose of Sacred Heart, the middle school, was to prepare you for high school, and like it really wanted you to get ahead, so that you didn't feel lost when you got there. And and I remember the first week at U of D freshman year, and like one of the days the teachers pulled us out of, or the counselors pulled us out of class. We went down to Curly Lobby and like sat around just to like reflect on like our first month or week or whatever it was at U of D. And one of the questions that was asked was like, what was the hardest thing that you felt or most challenging part of the school? And I think like almost everyone was saying how much the workload was, and just how like it was really hard for them to get their work done. But I never felt that way. So I feel like Sacred Heart was really able to prepare me for like the workload that I'd be facing in high school. And then yeah.
Do you know like roughly like I'd imagine Sacred Heart is like one of the more expensive archdiocese of Detroit schools. So do you know roughly how much it would be? Any estimate? I mean,
I think a rough
it's
estimate would
safe
probably
it's
be
safe
like,
to assume that it's one of the more expensive ones. So I mean, maybe a rough estimate isn't necessary, but
I mean, I would give a rough estimate around like 9,000 to 12,000
yeah,
a year.
yeah. And if I recall correctly, my the St. Anne tuition is roughly 5,000. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's a huge difference. And yeah, reflecting on the you saying that you felt like there wasn't that much of a difference in your workload. I as soon as I got to U of D, I realized like, wow,
yeah,
this is so much harder than St. Anne.
yeah.
Um,
Because at Sacred Heart, like we would have homework in almost every class, like every day. So
yeah,
when I came to U of D, it kind of just felt like more of the same. I mean, it was a little more work
yeah,
because I feel like every assignment was maybe like a little bigger,
yeah,
but like overall, it didn't feel overwhelming
yeah.
as
That
like most kids thought. I
yeah,
would say.
that makes sense. And yeah, also, I found it interesting that you said. So how big was your class?
So yeah, so when we went to the middle school for boys, when I got split off, our class was 16, and that's the biggest grade they ever had
Yeah,
to this day.
yeah, and then 16 boys would have one class.
Yeah, so yeah, and then for math, they would get split up because at Sacred Heart, you would get split up to like there's advanced math
Right.
and then
Yeah,
like the normal
I
math.
had that too. Yeah.
So it would actually be even less. So it'd be more like 10 kids in one class, and then 8 maybe in the advanced, or 6 in the advanced.
Wow. Yeah. No.
So you got there's definitely enough time to have one-on-one with the teachers.
Yeah. I find that interesting because, like I was talking about specifically that final fourth grade year that I was at Hazel Park, like I said, when it was half third graders, half fourth graders. If I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure that class was in the high 30s, low 40s. So
Yeah,
I mean, not only was it split up between, but you also had a classroom where there was 40 students. It was really difficult to actually be able to talk to the teacher, get some help, even go through lessons. Honestly.
yeah, there's probably 40 kids total in the middle school. So
Yeah, no, I would imagine that made it a lot easier on you guys.
yeah, I mean and they also offered like you could come into school or like come in before and after school to
Right.
get help, and also they offered like summer tutoring if you needed help with a certain subject, you could do that.
Yeah. No, that was definitely not offered at Hazel Park.
Yeah.
And where is Sacred Heart? You mentioned it. I might have just missed it.
Bloomfield Hills.
Oh yeah, big contrast and
Yeah.
diversity between Bloomfield Hills and
Very
Hazel
different.
Park. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about our educational experiences in the United States, why don't we look at education outside of the United States? What may be a shock to many is that the U.S. is ranked number 5 in terms of young workforce with college degrees, behind South Korea, Norway, Canada, and Japan. So let's try to get a different perspective on this. So we'll bring in a special guest, Giulio. Here he goes. Giulio joining us. He is a exchange student from Italy. Uh, he's here at U of D with us. Thank you for joining us, Giulio.
All right, no problem, no problem. It's a pleasure.
All right, so I have a couple of questions. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, an introduction, where you're from, the basics about you.
All right, so I'm from Italy. I'm from Vicenza, that is close to Venice, so north of Italy. I moved here like at the end of August, and nothing. I'm doing very great. I love UOD as a school. I have some good friends here. I'm having fun, so I'm enjoying my experience right now. And I don't know what can I tell you some more about the experience. I got to join like the soccer team at the start of the experience, but was so hard because training every day, and I don't have enough time to study because
Yeah.
I live pretty far from the school. So yeah, it was not enough time to do everything. So, but also that was a good experience. Maybe I do 10 soccer training with the team. Was a good time to know the people from the team.
Yeah. Okay. So did you have an experience with elementary or middle school in the U.S.? Or
Like
you didn't go to elementary or middle school in the United States, right?
no, I don't. I don't. No.
Okay. So just could you tell us a little bit about what your elementary school and middle school experience was in Italy?
So I don't know how here is organized, but is always like an high school. You just pass like the time in school. You do your lesson, then you go home. There are no like extra activity after school, like sport or joining some club
Mm-hmm.
or stuff like that. So just school, and we have like a little break and between the third and the fourth class, like a 15 minutes break.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was a very good time, the elementary and the middle schools, because I know my friends, a lot of friends that I'm in touch now. So was a great time. I mean, in like second year of middle school, um, was kind of hard because I lose like my concentration on the study,
Oh
and I
yeah.
would just like to go out with my friends. But I'm glad that now my attention on study is back. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So what are teachers like in Italy? Like compared to the US, like would you say it's like the same or just like how is that relationship between students and teachers like?
All right, that's a great topic because we were like in classes of maybe 25 people. So I think that in a class of 25 people, you can't give a personal attention on every kid, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is treated in the same way, and it's not a great system to understand stuff in a school, right? Because everybody have different quality, and I saw a great post on Instagram maybe 2 days ago that there was like this different type of animal that they have to do like the same test I mean, everybody had just to say that everybody have different quality, and not everybody are made for the same thing and the same system of school or maybe in the work. So
Right.
we need to see the quality in people, and we need to improve that.
Right. So
So
would you say you saw that more in Italy or the U.S. or both or?
no, I just saw it in the US because you have time to talk with your teacher maybe before school or in the time between the lesson or after school,
Right.
just to talk about maybe your problems, how you maybe you wanna. That's my experience right now. So I have time to speak about like my experience and my problem with the language, because it's
Right.
the bigger problem is with the language right now.
Right.
So I have great time to understand how sometimes I can fix my grade, because also, yeah, doing the same test as my classmates is sometimes really hard.
Uh-huh.
I'm having this problem in the anatomy class because anatomy was hard in Italy, so here with the language is something very, very,
It's even
very,
harder, yeah.
yeah, it's very hard for me. So with the other class, I'm doing pretty good, but with the anatomy class, I need to fix my grade. So yeah,
Right. Yeah.
but they give you the possibility to, yeah, to improve your quality. So you have a different club after school that you can join. Is your own choice. It's not like everybody has to do that. So you you can build your own future and be diverse from everybody else. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you would say that in terms of like teacher connection, the United States experience has been better than what it was in Italy?
United States treat people and not as number. Like
Ah, yeah.
the most of the time, it was my experience in Italy. So yeah, between like the second year and the third year of high school, I changed my high school. I went to a private one that was a better choice for me, and also I'm very thankful to my parents for that, because I really don't understand, and I don't want to say hate, but it's like that yeah, everybody's treated as the same. So
Right.
yeah,
So
and
so in Italy you went to a public high school and a private high school?
yeah, I started with a public high school, but it was a very old teaching method,
Uh-huh.
and we were in 30 people in a class. So
Right.
yeah, and it was like so much stuff to study, so no free time.
Right.
Well, was not for me. Was
Yeah.
not for me. Yeah.
So you would say that the private experience in Italy was much better than the public?
Yeah, because we were in less people in a class, so we can the teacher can concentrate more on the single person, right,
Right.
and not as a group. And so I don't don't want to explain with this like that uh I'm like, how can I explain that? I need to be more trust, maybe as like other kid from the public school.
Yeah.
But I think for my process, this is a better experience. So I have the possibility to do that, and I didn't say no. So yeah.
That's great. So the public school in Italy, so how does it compare to the private? Not comparing it to teachers, comparing it to like the resources that they
Oh,
had.
the resources. All right. Yeah, that there are not very big difference between the resources from a public and a private school. The big difference is just that we are in less people in a class,
Mm-hmm.
and we if we maybe fail a test,
Right.
and the teacher so see that we are mad for that, with obviously with ourselves, and we want to fix that, and we put ourselves in that. They appreciate that, and they give us the possibility to fix that.
and it's not free grade. I don't want to say that it's free grade just because we go to a private school.
Yeah.
But they want us to fix our mistake.
Yeah, they actually care about you learning.
Yeah. That's the same in a USA school.
In the USA school,
yeah.
Right. So, but you would say that in terms of resources, they're about the same?
Yeah, they're about the same. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was in a private school before came here to America, and now they have changed the building. So yeah, I need to go back to Italy next year and see what are the difference between the old one and the new one. But
Yeah.
when it was there, the resources were quite the same. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great. So what are some differences? So I'd imagine that as soon as you got to the U.S., you were like, this is very different, right?
Yeah.
So what are some differences that you instantly saw between the Italian education and the United States education?
You're talking about the school?
Yeah, just like your experience, not even just the school, like just the experience, like how the teachers taught, how the homework was given.
Right. So I can see the whole world here in America is moving faster than Italy. So more so it's moving faster. So I mean, like you act like on the laptop. In Italy, I never study on a laptop. I just have book and my like my little book for writing the assignments, and there is everything on a laptop. So I don't have any book here, and yeah, is you are trusting the process of the word, and
Right.
the school has a lot of cool stuff, like as club. I didn't ever thought about that. You have great I mean, I saw like the robotics lab. You have some technology that are insane
Yeah.
that I never saw it, and that's great. Yeah, I love it. And the teacher are more human, so they maybe it's just my vision of that, but here you have like an American dream, all right?
Yeah. The American dream.
So,
Everyone
yeah,
knows about
the
it.
famous American dream. So all the teacher want that every kid go up and grow up in a good way, all right?
Mhm.
So they want that everybody have good grades, and they help the kid to have good grades. So it's not that you have a bad grades, all right, you need to fix it on your own.
Right.
Because we are just 17, 16, and maybe sometimes is a hard time to do that. So they see that, and they help us with everything they can do.
Right.
So this is very good, and I see that they're not doing just because it's just a normal job, but because they believe in us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's great.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
One. Let's see. So when you got to U of D, so
Mhm.
did you feel that you were behind? I know you have the language barrier. Obviously, that makes it a little bit harder for you. But maybe in subjects where the language didn't maybe cause less problems for you, did you feel like you were behind other students, or maybe even ahead?
Uh, so that's I feel behind just for the language, the and the language problem, and that because came at the U of D at the start of my experience was like uh, introduce myself in an environment where everybody were friends, all right?
Mm-hmm.
You know everybody, so everybody's your friends, and for me it was hard to get inside the like the society of U of D, all right?
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I felt behind everybody, but I mean that's the past. So there were hard time, and there are also now hard time for me, but trying to go on with everything positive every time, a positive mindset. So yeah. trying to go on to my experience because I know that's great for my future.
Yeah, yeah. So what about like in terms of like your classes? So maybe in like math, let's say, or science, or
All right, right.
obviously not English, but so like would you say Italy made you like were you behind other American students or ahead of other American students?
All right, so let's start with the math class because it was my biggest problem at the start. So I changed about like three math classes because I was in pre-calc, and then I moved to trigonometry for 2 days, but it was not mine. And then I moved to analytical that I'm now. So in Italy, we were very, very, very like harder topics. But the last year, the whole year we did it like in long distance lessons. So we did with the laptop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so was a hard and easy time at the same moment because it was easy because you were home and you don't need to go to school, so you can just follow the lesson from your bed. But it was hard because keeping my attention on that, like that's not just my personal problem, but it was problem of everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's
It-
something everyone that was online experienced.
yeah, so I don't want to say maybe I lose a year of high school, but we're close to that, all right? because
Yeah.
because they was something that nobody can control it. So was everything happened so fast that the school met the school every school in Italy don't have enough time to figure it out a way to keep the attention of every guy. And because obviously it was a new thing for everybody, and they have to adapt like the COVID restriction on that. So yeah,
Right.
but it was hard, and I feel like I close lose a year of high school because I was with like math topic was were harder than here, but here I have a big like regression on my math, so I need to start from something easier, and
Mhm.
then I can go on.
Yeah.
So I understand where were like my mistake, so that's why I change my class, and I go to maybe you can say an easiest one, yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. So in Italy it was completely online for the past few years?
Yeah, for the year, yeah, completely online, yeah.
So over Zoom, same way
Yeah,
here?
over Zoom, yeah,
Okay.
or yeah, Zoom, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one final question. So if you had to say what educational format you like more, Italy or the United States, maybe
Uh,
maybe you can give one which one you enjoyed more and which one you learned more in so far. Which one would you say if you had to give one answer?
so definitely I will say the American one, but sometimes it just to you have to do like your. I feel like my entire life here is around around the school. So in Italy, I have more time to focus on my private life, and I
Mhm.
mean, I go out of school at 1:45, and I
Oh
have
yeah.
the entire afternoon for me for doing my stuff, for organizing my study.
Right.
So, but in general, the method is better here, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting to hear. That's great to hear actually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. I guess.
Yeah. I mean that's all I have for you, Julio. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
all right,
Thank you so
nice.
much for taking time out of your day.
No problem. I mean, I was just here seeing the snow outside, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, nothing was really going on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
All right, well, really appreciate it,
So
Julio.
let's see you at school tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
All right, see you, man.
All right. See ya. See ya.
Okay, many thanks to Julio for joining us. That was fantastic. It was great to hear about his experiences in Italy and how it compares to his experiences now.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that Gio ended up liking the United States system more than Italy's. This is very surprising because he spent most of his time in Italy. So just seeing that he's only been here for a short time and liking him more is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after being in an environment your whole life, you're obviously gonna. I mean, you'd be more inclined to say that you like that original environment more. But I mean, obviously he's really enjoyed the U.S. education system, and it's been great for him. But what I found most interesting though is that he said the Italian public school system, when compared to the Italian private school system, they're roughly the same in terms of resources. I mean, that was shocking because that's totally different from what we have here. Uh, Especially comparing it to the experiences that I've had with the U.S. education system, comparing public to private. Um, Obviously and clearly, the public school system and the public schools in the U.S. have been very under resourced compared to the private ones. So it's interesting to see that in Italy that's really not an issue.
Yeah, it just really reinforces that point that there's clearly education inequality within the United States that really does need to be addressed. And according to a recent article by Forbes, poorer kids are falling more and more behind when going to college compared to wealthier kids. And in some areas, students from richer backgrounds are up to twice as likely as their poor friends to go to college.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. I mean, even comparing Hazel Park to Sacred Heart, it seems totally unfair. Um, you'd expect the public schools to be at like at least around the same level, maybe even a little lower, because one's public, one's private. But I mean, you'd expect them to be kind of similar in terms of education, but this is just not the case. And obviously, this is just in terms of resources. It's expected that the private school will have a better teacher to student ratio because obviously there's going to be less students enrolled in the public school. I mean, rather, there's going to be less students enrolled in the private school than in the public school. Um, but you'd
And
expect those resources to be around the same.
all right, yeah, and then between 2001 and 2002 and 2011 to 2012, the financial gap between rich and poor students increased by 44%, according to a report released by the Federal Education Department. And this meant that on average, the wealthiest 25% of students or school districts spent $1,500 more per student than the poor 25% of school districts.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of sad to hear. Especially like going back to my previous point, whether or not I think I would have had the same educational success if I continued at a public school. I think it's pretty clear now that I just wouldn't have because I wouldn't have had the same opportunities, the same resources that you'd expect from a public school to give you.
Yeah, I think this definitely shows that there are more people like need to be informed about this because I mean our education system needs to be changed to better the country and just the next generation in general.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
So I mean I think that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. I hope this was informative for everyone listening.
Yeah, and I hope that this inspires all of you to seek some change for the American public school education system.